Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are getting into a topic where emotions and really high stakes consequences just collide.
Hmm.
We're looking at how we humans make decisions when we're under, extreme emotional duress. Our source material for this really zooms in on one of the most fraught choices you can imagine,
Yeah.
that internal conflict of choosing between a long-term spouse and, well, a new paramour.
Right. And our mission here is really clear.
hmm
We're using this emotionally charged scenario, not to talk about the morality of it, but to actually dissect the cognitive framework behind it. The why.
Exactly. We want to understand universally why those intense, high-octane feelings are precisely the signals you can't trust when you're making major life decisions. And most importantly, we're going to pull out some objective questions, real tools you can use to cut through that fog.
And that's so vital. I mean, the specifics of the relationships, they're just the testing ground here.
Hmm.
What's really valuable for you, the listener, is the principle behind it. When infatuation or, fear or guilt are running the show,
hmm
your ability to make a clear-eyed assessment just it plummets.
Right.
So we're trying to understand how that emotional intensity creates these distortions.
hmm
And these principles, they apply whether you're talking about romance or just assessing the hype around a new technology.
Okay, so let's start by defining the battlefield because the sources describe this intense, almost paralyzing emotional landscape. On one side, you got the new relationship. It's all passion, desire, excitement.
All consuming.
Yeah, all consuming. Everything feels vital, immediate. It feels like this is the life you were meant to have.
Yeah, but that exhilaration is constantly at war
Yeah.
with the other side. This crushing weight of guilt and shame. I mean, this isn't just a simple romance. You're worrying about the consequences for your
Yeah.
kids, your family, the financial fallout, your reputation. You're bouncing between intense pleasure and this profound dread. And that's where we have to anchor the analysis.
Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. You are doing important work.
Operating in that kind of polarized, intense state, it just makes people fundamentally susceptible to cognitive distortion.
Cognitive distortion. So the brain is taking shortcuts.
It is. It's overwhelmed by these conflicting signals. So, for example, the sources detail how people in this state will often magnify the positive traits of the new situation. Everything the new person does is brilliant. It's surprising.
And at the same time, they're minimizing the good things about their spouse.
Exactly. They're minimizing the spouse's virtues or the reality of the existing relationship. They're trying to rationalize that guilt by just rushing toward a choice, any choice, thinking it'll make the pain stop.
So that magnification effect it's huge. It's not just that the emotion is a distraction, it's actively building a flawed reality.
That's a great way to put it.
So if that intensity is blocking the signal, what is the single biggest error that the material warns us about?
It's the central misconception that just derails almost every thought process in these high-stakes emotional situations. It's the belief that the current dynamic, the passion, the excitement, the secrecy, will somehow just transfer unchanged into a permanent settled life.
It's like confusing the thrill of the high wire act with
Yeah.
what's needed for just walking on the ground every day.
Yes, you're projecting a temporary, highly curated state into a permanent future. And the material is just. It's incredibly effective at cutting through that illusion. And it does it with this, jarring specificity that really makes you stop and think. It just states it flatly. Passion, excitement, and flirtation will inevitably change over time.
Yes, and the source material, it doesn't shy away from using these blunt reality checks to illustrate that change. That one specific phrase, sex with a mistress and sex with a mistress who becomes your wife, are not the same.
Yeah, that's startlingly effective.
It is, because it forces you to immediately recognize the shift. You're going from an experience defined by, forbidden escapism and rarity to one that's defined by a shared mundane reality.
The roles change.
The roles change, the emotional drivers change, and critically, the chemistry changes. So it makes you realize that the intense feeling you're chasing is tied to the current status of the relationship, a status that just can't be maintained once you make a commitment.
Exactly. So, okay, that leads us right to the critical analysis in this deep dive. Why does that dynamic change so drastically? We need to deconstruct the mechanisms that create this illusion, right? These mechanisms are the key to seeing that the current dynamic just isn't sustainable. So first, the relationship is built on what you could call temporary ease.
Temporary ease.
Yeah, its current energy is fueled by secrecy and scarcity. The limited time you spend together, the effort it takes to meet, the risk, All of that just spikes the emotional reward and the excitement.
And then once the secret's gone, that intensity just naturally fades away.
It has to. And that brings up the second mechanism, which is distance.
Okay, distance.
Think about what's missing from this affair dynamic. There is no shared household. There's no routine. There's no daily life friction.
You skip all the common points of conflict that wear down a long-term partnership.
All of them.
We're talking about a relationship in a vacuum, divorced from all the external pressures, no arguments about bills, whose turn it is to walk the dog, coordinating schedules.
Dealing with a stressful commute together. None of that. The distance prevents the normalization that every single committed relationship have to go through. You only get to share the high points.
The escape.
The escape. And avoiding all that friction makes the third mechanism, which the source is called demo mode, incredibly potent.
Demo mode. I like that.
That's a great term. And frankly, this concept applies to every high-stakes assessment, from romance to hiring someone.
Right. In the beginning, people are subconsciously presenting the absolute best, most curated version of themselves.
It's the relationship equivalent of a startup's perfect pitch deck before they actually have to, execute the business plan.
That's a fantastic analogy. It frames it as this unsustainable performance, not a core truth. And the sources give some really specific examples of this effort level.
Yeah, they do. They clarify that the person making the choice is often putting in a massive effort to be the person they think the paramour wants. They're showing qualities,
Giving compliments, being romantic.
showing up, perfectly dressed, putting in huge planning effort for dates, things they may have stopped showing their spouse years ago. They're putting on a performance.
And the paramour is doing the same thing.
And crucially, yes, the paramour is operating under the exact same demo mode constraints. She is actively hiding flaws, weaknesses, any less appealing parts of her personality. She has a huge advantage of only being seen during showtime.
She doesn't have to manage the daily grind with you.
Never. And that is the trap. When the status changes, the whole dynamic of rarity and effort it shifts profoundly.
The moment it becomes permanent, that effort drops, the distance is gone, and demo mode is immediately unsustainable.
Right.
The woman who becomes your wife will no longer be the same person she was when she was your mistress, because the conditions that allowed both of you to be perfect just don't exist anymore.
It's like test driving a sleek sports car that you only take out on a Sunday versus relying on it for the daily commute through rush hour traffic. The demands change everything.
So the psychological consequence is that the thing you fell in love with, that intense, curated dynamic, was fundamentally temporary.
It was. And when the inevitable friction of permanence sets in, you're left with the reality of two people who might be totally incompatible, who never actually saw each other outside of that high-effort, low-friction bubble.
So if this powerful illusion of demo mode and temporary ease is blinding you, how do you get the clarity you need for an objective assessment? This is where the final section comes in. The source material gives 3 specific, non-emotional questions you have to ask yourself.
3 self-diagnostic questions to ask before finalizing any major choice rooted in that kind of intense emotion.
What's the first one? The first question directly attacks that demo mode illusion. You have to ask, am I idealizing my paramour, projecting my current emotions onto her? Oof, that's a hard one.
It's incredibly difficult because it asks you to confront this uncomfortable possibility that the person you're pursuing isn't even a real person, but just a screen. A screen you're projecting feelings of excitement and freedom onto.
And the second question, the second one follows right from that. You ask, am I ready for our relationship to change once it becomes permanent? The ultimate stress test.
It is. It forces you to acknowledge that you are guaranteed to lose the rarity in the distance.
Yeah.
If the only reason the relationship feels intense is because it's forbidden or secret, are you prepared for what's left when the novelty wears off?
And when the effort drops to a sustainable, domestic level.
Right.
And the third question is what brings the focus back to accountability in the existing marriage, which I think is a crucial part of this whole deep dive's insight. You have to ask yourself, can I bring back the feelings I am missing in my marriage instead of seeking them elsewhere?
Wow.
And that requires taking responsibility for the effort level you've been putting out there.
Yes. If the missing piece in your marriage is romance or compliments or planning all the things you are currently doing for the paramour, this question asks if you could generate those same feelings within the existing structure. It forces you to look at your own behavior as the variable.
Not just the other person.
Not just the other person. And the overall takeaway, tying this all together, is that you just cannot let feelings dictate decisions of permanent consequence. You have to apply objective, critical thinking.
Recognize that infatuation is fleeting.
Recognize that infatuation, temporary ease, and demo mode are designed by nature to be fleeting. If you build your entire future on those temporary high-intensity foundations, the whole thing is almost guaranteed to collapse when routine and reality set in.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, whether you're dealing with relationships or a career change? The lesson is about distinguishing between temporary excitement and sustainable reality. The temporary demo mode, whether it's a romantic partner or startup promising 10x returns, it creates an unsustainable illusion of perfection.
You have to always identify what parts of the current situation are temporary perks, rarity, secrecy, novelty, versus what are sustainable traits like character, long-term commitment, and shared core values.
Right.
The ultimate goal of this kind of self-diagnosis is to understand that the intensity you get from secrecy and adrenaline is fundamentally different from the stability and effort you need for permanence.
One is a high-speed sprint.
Fueled by scarcity, yeah. And the other is a marathon that requires routine maintenance and deep mutual vulnerability.
Okay, so here's the provocative thought we want to leave you with today, building on the source's focus on effort. If the material suggests that the core problem is that you were showing the paramour high-quality engagement, compliments, and romance effort you had withheld from your spouse, does the massive effort required to maintain demo mode actually reveal more about your personal willingness to put in work than it does about the true nature of either partner?
That's a deep question.
If that level of effort is available inside you, why was it only deployed under conditions of novelty and forbidden intensity? That's something to think about. A crucial self-diagnostic question. Thank you for joining us for this intense deep dive.
Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. If you want to overcome betrayal, break toxic cycles, take control of your relationship choices, read How to Deal with a Love Triangle. The link is below the video.